Nation will rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. And there will be great earthquakes in various places, and famines and pestilences, and there will be fearful sights and great signs from heaven. And there will be signs in the sun, in the moon, and in the stars, and on the earth distress of nations with perplexity, the sea and the waves roaring, men's hearts failing them from fear and the expectation of those things which are coming on the earth, for the powers of the heavens will be shaken. Then they will see the Son of Man coming in a cloud with power and great glory. Now when these things begin to happen, look up and lift up your heads, because your redemption draws near.
Ladies and gentlemen, listen to what's about to happen on April 8th of 2024. It might have incredible implications for your life. First of all, CERN is going to be starting up their Hadron Collider to collide two atoms to produce what they're looking for, called the God particle. Not only that, NASA is launching rockets into the Eclipse, and they call the mission after an Egyptian serpent deity. The cicadas are coming by the billions, first time since we've seen them since 1803, covering a large swath of the United States of America. Red heifers are about to be sacrificed in Israel for the first time in thousands of years, setting the pages of prophecy on fire. There's a massive solar eclipse coming across the United States, forming an X marks the spot in southern Illinois. That's got to be prophetic. Not only that, we've got wars and rumors of wars.
And one Central Texas county issuing an emergency declaration. Bell County Judge David Blackburn says the population of 400,000 could triple just days leading up to the eclipse, which could potentially hurt cell service and emergency response times.
All those in favor? Passes unanimously.
A month away from the April 8th solar eclipse, Travis County issues a disaster declaration. Officials expect to see big crowds, traffic, and a strain on first responders, hospitals, and roads.
The region says it is enacting the state of emergency out of an abundance of caution, as it has been working with partners to ensure April 8th runs as smoothly as possible. On Thursday, Niagara Region put the state of emergency in place, noting it strengthens tools to safeguard health and safety for residents, visitors, and critical infrastructure in advance of the eclipse and any scenarios that might arise.
Cell phone coverage may be a challenge that day. While we are surging resources in terms of additional coverage, and while we are basically expanding the bandwidth that 911 could use, it is possible that cell phones get a bit overloaded.
NASA has announced it will fire 3 scientific sounding rockets into the moon's shadow on Monday, April 8th, during a partial solar eclipse across North America. In what will be a total solar eclipse for a 115-mile wide path through parts of Mexico, 15 U.S. states, and Canada, and a partial solar eclipse for the entire Americans. The event will see a sudden drop in sunlight. Now look at this next part. Listen to me real carefully. The space agency's project. So this project, wherein which they will fire these rockets at this event, is called an atmospheric perturbations around the eclipse path. Let me say that again. Atmospheric perturbations around the eclipse path will investigate how the drop in sunlight and temperature affects Earth's upper atmosphere. The acronym that they've given for this is APEP, which, look at this, you can't make this stuff up, friend, which is named after the serpent deity from ancient Egyptian mythology. Officials warn of widespread cell phone disruption ahead of solar eclipse. Now, when we scroll down on this article, look, I want to read the following. An article shared on NASA's website states that the eclipse itself could also interfere with the connectivity. Quote, the sudden changes in ionospheric conditions during an eclipse can lead to the formation of ionospheric anomalies. Remember, we pointed this out, last week? Such as ionospheric holes or depletions. These anomalies can disrupt radio signals and GPS navigation systems, affecting communication and navigation over affected regions. So again, here, the same organization that's warning about the eclipse doing this, they're conducting this experiment with these rockets, firing this thing at the eclipse, using this program that is named after a serpent deity. And I'm telling you, you just can't make this stuff up. It gets more and more bizarre. Oh, and listen to this. If that's not bizarre enough, let's just add more to this. Guess what else is firing up in the same time frame? Now, this is from CERN. This is CERN's website. Quote, CERN's accelerators gear up for action after the winter maintenance break. So guys, listen, CERN, this is, again, if you don't know what this is this collider that is in Switzerland. This is a something that these people have created with the efforts and the intents to try to recreate the Big Bang Theory. This thing has reportedly feared that it has been responsible for opening portals. Now, of course, the fact checkers are all over it, saying that no, it's not opened or is opening a portal to hell. Again, there's been a lot of fears. There's been a lot of uncertainties that this thing is going to rip a hole into another dimension, and it's going to open a portal to the underworld.
CERN is a international body of scientists that have developed the largest Hadron Collider in history. It is a 17-mile, 300 feet underground tube that's designed to put particles in opposite directions going at 7 miles an hour under the speed of light and then collide them, which is extraordinarily difficult. It's like shooting a bow and arrow at 100 yards away from your opponent and hitting the tips just perfectly where they explode. That's what they're trying to do. And why are they trying to do this? Because they believe if they can get these particles to go at the speed of light and eventually come and collide with one another, then they will discover what's called the antimatter, or the dark matter of what is holding together matter to begin with. They know it's there, like, you know, gravity's there, but you can't really see it. They know it's there, but they have never been able to capture it. They call it the God particle. They want to discover what's holding this universe together. Ladies and gentlemen, it's just very simple. Open up your Bible and save billions of dollars. The Word made flesh is what's holding this entire universe together. Amen? But they want to find the God particle, and in that process, there's a lot of danger that's been speculated around this particular instrument, because this entire instrument and this practice has the potential of creating miniature black holes. Now, they say there's nothing wrong with that. It's not going to happen. And even if it is, they're microscopic and there's no problem, but they've never done it before. So how do you know that a microscopic wormhole won't pull the entire United States, or the entire world, I should say, into it, and off we go? Now, why is this so important? Because CERN is about to start up the Hadron Collider, ladies and gentlemen, on April 8th, on the day of the biggest solar eclipse in American history, where millions of people are flying from around the world. They are going to collide these hadron atoms, these protons, these electrons are going to be collided on this day. Now, why in the world would they choose April 8th to do this? I have no idea. But this company is creepy on every level, and I'll tell you why. Not only is CERN in CERN, Switzerland, but I want to show you this, because this is cause for, in my opinion, a cause for alarm, and here's why. If you take a look at where it's actually at, okay, a large portion of CERN is located in the territory of St. Genus Poli, probably not pronouncing that right. In Roman times, it was called Apollicum. The town and the temple were dedicated to Apollyon, the destroyer. So this is ancient Horus. This is Shiva. The town Apollyon literally is dedicated to the god of destruction, the god of chaos, the destroyer. And this entire Hadron Collider is right in the middle of Apollyon. Now, why is that so important? Because if you go to the book of Revelation, this is what we read. It says in chapter 9, verse 1, 2, and 11, to him was given the keys of the bottomless pit, and he opened the bottomless pit. And they had a king over them, which is the angel of the bottomless pit, whose name in the Hebrew tongue is Abaddon, but in the Greek tongue his name is Apollyon. Now, you might not find that just a coincidence, but the fact that they've got this Hadron Collider, which some people, even very, very important scientists, are scared out of their mind of what is going to happen. Now, CERN will tell you on their website, we have no intention of doing anything wrong. Who has intention of blowing up the world? Who has intention of accidentally cracking open a time-space continuum and having something on the other side? Well, I believe they're not telling the full truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So take a look at this quote straight from the director of research at CERN concerning the exact purpose of this Hadron Collider. Listen to this. Quote, something may come through dimensional doors at LHC, the Large Hadron Collider. And out of this door might come something, or we might send something through it. Ladies and gentlemen, the purpose of CERN, they tell you it's all for scientific research. No, they're looking for the God particle. They want to know what's holding the universe together. And ultimately, they're trying to get into time travel. They want to open up the curtain of what is behind our dimension and get into the multiverse. This is what they're after. They believe there are multiple universes happening and in parallel to one another simultaneously, and they want to tear that open, and they know that something has the potential of coming through it. Now, we just read out of the book of Revelation that the Apollyon comes out, that the doors of the deep the gates are opened up, and crazy things come out of the deep. Could it possibly be, would it be that much of a stretch to say that maybe we're the ones that do it? Maybe in our effort in mankind to find a wormhole, to get into Star Trek world, to discover more and more and more and more, like the Tower of Babel, that eventually maybe we actually do open up the space-time continuum. We open up the doors of the second dimension, and the demonic realm comes alive onto this earth. It's very possible. They just said that's exactly what they know is possible. So for what's really fascinating is evolution is dead. The scientists at the highest level now know there is a spiritual realm. There is another dimension beyond ours, and they're trying to tap into it. And my friends, the last time this happened was the Tower of Babel, and it didn't go over too well for them. Take a look at the actual icon. This is the logo that CERN has. Now, a couple of things that I notice about this logo, you might have seen this on the internet, but I think it's really, really worth taking a look at. Number one, they say that this is a Hadron Collider going into circles, but to me, this looks eerily like a solar eclipse or a lunar eclipse that's happening right in front of us. And two, if you take this symbol and you just unmix them, you take them apart, here's what it looks like. These are actually, it's 3 6s put together. Their logo is 3 6s put together. Now, you might say, oh, that's a conspiracy. Oh, that could have been this, could have been that. I'm here to tell you that the devil does not come out blatantly and say, oh, by the way, I'm going to use this company to represent me and bring on the Antichrist. No, he does things always subliminally. So there's always a mixture. It's a triology of good and evil. So you've got the truth, right, which is, oh, yes, they're doing this for scientific reasons. They probably have no nefarious motives whatsoever, right? We're to believe that. But the devil is involved in the details, and he's always hidden in plain sight. And I do believe, my personal opinion, I could be wrong, oftentimes I am, but at the end of the day, you can be the deciding factor of what you believe. But to me, trying to break open the spiritual realm and send somebody to the other side and bring something from the other side, and a company that has a logo that has 3 6s put together to make it look like sounds like something exactly what the enemy would do. And here is what's fascinating. Only company that I know of in history that's international in nature, that right outside the doors of this facility in CERN is the statue of Shiva. Now, they will tell you, oh, this was given to us by the scientific community from India. And that's true. But they don't have a stat. Can you imagine if the Christian scientists decided to gift them the 10 Commandments, and would they have that displayed outside of CERN? No, not at all. You know that would not be true. They are discriminating here on one level, and they are telling you in plain sight, this is what we believe. Now, who is Shiva? It's actually not even a she. They say it's a she, but it's actually a guy, but it's actually mixed, a guy and a girl. Sounds like a trans to me, thousands of years old, right out of the mind and the playbook of the enemy. And she is the goddess of destruction and rebirth. So her job is to destroy and then recreate. And that's exactly what Satan wants to do. He wants to destroy what God did and then recreate it in himself. And so Shiva is doing a dance with fire, okay? We know how the end of the world ends according to the book of Revelation and the prophets. And Shiva is the god. There's so much in it. I encourage you to go look at just Shiva and all the prophetic symbolism of what that goddess looks like and what she's doing right here represents. But this is outside of CERN. And listen to this. This is a plaque that's right next to the statue. This is what it says. Now, for those that just believe all this is just given by the Indian government, okay, if so, why is these words on this plaque? Quote, thousands of years ago, Indian artists made the image of the Lord Shiva absorbed in the dance from the copper chain. Today, in our time, all physical scientists are again using advanced technologies to create the format of cosmic dance. At present, scientists theorize of a cosmic dance actually stands on the foundation of ancient myths, religion, art, and physics. Modern physics tells us that the process of creation and cataclysm is not just linked to the beginning and end of life in the universe, but to the particles of the whole creation. In other words, ladies and gentlemen, this was quoted by a top scientist on a plaque right next to this Shiva statue that is validating that Shiva is the perfect representation of what we're doing. The particles dance on a microscopic level, and it's all connected to religion. It even says it in there that religion, art, physics, all of these things are mixed together. They're all connected. This is where string theory comes from. They believe it's all connected. The first time in American history, we have a solar eclipse, and the state government is saying, hey, by the way, you might want to not keep your kids in school that day. You might want to have some extra food. Why are they telling us to have extra food and have extra gas in our car if nothing, they're not afraid of anything? When I was in school in third grade, I remember a solar eclipse. We came outside of my Catholic school. We looked at the solar eclipse. We went back in, probably had recess right after that. It was no big deal. But today, they don't want people in school. They want you to have extra food. Something is amiss. And on top of that, the National Guard is being released and instructed in all of these cities across the United States as some sort of precautionary measure. For what is the question? Is the precautionary measure? They've never done this before in history, modern history. They know something that we don't. Now, again, I'm not saying that anything is going to happen. I'm not a prophet, but what I can tell you is prophecy says that in the end days, there'll be wars, there'll be rumors of wars, and crazy things like this will happen. Earthquakes will happen. The sun and the moon will go dark. That's about to happen on April 8th. And so something might be birthed in the prophetic realm, and we'll talk more about that a little bit later. But let me show you this. NASA on April 8th, not April 9th, not April 7th, April 8th, is going to be launching 3 rockets into this solar eclipse for all kinds of research purposes, and that's fine, all dandy. But why in the world would they have to name this mission after an Egyptian god called Apep, which is the nemesis of Ra, the sun god? This is the god of destruction and chaos and darkness. So they name this mission after the god of darkness that swallows up Ra, the solar god, which is, I guess, the eclipse wink that NASA's doing. And I think it's fascinating that all of these things are happening at one time. Now, you might say, oh, it's just a coincidence, but you've got the Devil's Comet showing up on April 8th. First time in 71 years. You can go outside right now on the horizon, and if you live in the United States, and look towards the west, towards the setting sun, and you'll be able to see you should be able to see on a clear night the comet. Now, the last time that we had a comet, ladies and gentlemen, with it's 2 solar eclipses that formed an X over the United States was in 1811, and 3 months later was the largest continental earthquake in the history of the United States. So large it caused the Mississippi River to flow backwards, and the Liberty Bell rang on the East Coast. This is a serious thing that's happening. And now we've got a Hadron Collider that's trying to collide 2 atoms together to form whatever they're trying to form, find the God particle, open up the space-time continuum. Could they do it on that day? They're saying between that day and by April 22nd, which happens to be Passover, they're expecting on April 22nd for the antiprotons to be introduced into the Hadron Collider. You cannot make this stuff up. It keeps happening over and over again on Passover. Nisan 1 is April 8th, which is the beginning of the Hebrew year, 14 days before Passover on the biblical calendar. Nisan 1 was when they cleansed the temple during Nehemiah's time. There's so many things that happen in the Bible on Nisan 1, and now we've got all these crazy things that are happening on Nisan 1 again. And if that's not enough, on this same day, April 8th, but 1904, Aleister Crowley, one of the most satanic occult leaders of all time in the early 1900s, said that he was contacted by a god of Egypt named Horus, which just so happens to be the sun god of Egypt. And Horus gave him very specific instructions that he told him to write down in what's called the Book of the Law. How ironic. Horus has a book of the law, and God himself in the Old Testament has the book of the law. God says, if you keep my commandments, you'll be blessed. If you don't, you'll be cursed. Well, maybe the curse is because you're keeping the book of the law of Horus, of the enemy. Whole nother discussion. But getting back here, look what Horus actually told him, what's in the book of the law. So it says this in Wikipedia. According to Crowley's later statements on April 8th, he heard a disembodied voice identifying himself as Awaz, the messenger of Horus. Okay. Crowley said that he wrote down everything the voice told him over the course of the next 3 days. And he said that the book proclaimed that humanity was entering a new eon and that Crowley would serve as its prophet. It stated that a supreme moral law was to be introduced in this eon. Now look, here's the supreme moral law. You ready for this? Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law, and that people should learn to live in tune with their will. In other words, Horus, the god of Egypt, the sun god, aka Satan himself, said, look, here's the book of my law. Do what you want. Your will is the most important will. Can I ask you something right now, friend? Do you live the will of God, or do you live your own will? Because if you let your own mind, will, and emotions rule you, then you are keeping the book of the law of Satan. It's just that simple. God's law is you keep his mind, will, and emotions. You do what his will is, and in return, you get life eternal, and you get joy, and you get fulfillment in this life as well.
We all know the sound from a swarm or brood of cicadas. Now, for the first time in more than 200 years, 2 very specific broods of cicadas will be emerging at the same time in 17 states. The last time they actually came above ground at the same time was when Thomas Jefferson was president.
So yes, this is next that's happening on April 8th, or the time around there, is the cicadas. Within a few days of April 8th, we don't know exactly what day they're going to come out of the ground, but the first time, listen to this, 2 breeds of cicadas are coming out of the ground by the billions, covering a large swath of the United States of America. Just so happen to be in the Midwest, the entire middle and lower section of the United States, exactly where the X marks the spot. Okay, these cicadas are coming out of the ground, and the last time that mankind has seen these, get this, not a single person alive has seen them, 1803. So these might be all coincidences, ladies and gentlemen, but you've got things coming out of the ground, all right, that literally sound like right out of the book of Revelation, We've got the Hadron Collider firing up on April 8th, NASA launching something with a mission name after an Egyptian god. You have the Devil's Comet. You got a solar eclipse happening all at the same time. All of these things are happening, and that's not even it. You have the red heifers that are literally moments from being sacrificed in Israel. Israel gave permission to the Temple Institute to sacrifice these red heifers so that they can begin the process of doing daily sacrifices, which first they've got to build a temple, and that's going to cause all kinds of problems. But Israel found out that there was so much pushback by Hamas, by the Arabs, by the Palestinians, and that there was a threat even by Hamas saying that part of this war that they started was in part, they released a statement saying in part because of these red heifers. They do not want anything happening on that Temple Mount around the Al Mosque and the Dome of the Rock up there. That's their deal up there from their perspective. They don't want anything happening up there with their mosque and with the Dome of the Rock. And so part of the Hamas-Gaza war right now is because of that. And because the threat level went up, Israel just recently retracted their permission for the Temple Institute to sacrifice these red heifers. So they're putting it off, but it won't be for long. Right now they're in Shiloh, protected. And now you may not understand the red heifers. Maybe you're saying, what are you talking about these red heifers? The red heifer sacrifice, according to Torah, the front of the book, is necessary for Israel to begin doing sacrifices again. Now, why is that important as you as a believer today? Because Daniel chapter 9 says that the Antichrist is going to interrupt the daily sacrifice, and so that means there has to be a sacrifice. In order to be daily sacrifices, or I should say, in order for the Antichrist to interrupt the daily sacrifices, there has to be daily sacrifices to begin with. And in order to do that, the Torah says you must, anytime the temple's been defiled, you must have an ashes of the red heifer, and you have to take the ashes and you wrap that in hyssop and scarlet thread, linen, and wrap it in cedar wood, and then you can, the temple will be cleansed. If you've never heard about the red heifer sacrifice, I encourage you to look at the video that I have on this in detail. It will blow your mind of how the hyssop, the cedar, the scarlet, all of that is connected to the Messiah. Every one of those elements were at the cross. It's incredible. But in any case, it has to be sacrificed in order for the daily sacrifice to begin. It's about to happen for the first time in thousands of years. They're going to do that. When that happens, the beginning of the end begins. Now, we don't know how long it will be before a temple could either be built or they could do it in Shiloh, because that's currently where they're being held right now. And the first temple, the tabernacle, was in Shiloh. They could easily build a tabernacle way faster. They could build a temple, and they could sacrifice the red heifers there. They could do the sacrifices every day there, the daily sacrifices. So we don't know what's in their mind, but I'm telling you, crazy things are happening on April 8th, and around Passover this year is a very special time. There's one more thing. There are 5 planets, my friends, aligning on April 8th. Along with everything else, you've got 5 planets aligned. We have Earth will be in alignment with Venus, Neptune, Saturn, and Mars. Now, I don't know this significance of all that. There's a lot of people smarter than I am that will go into the prophetic detail and the symbolism of each one of those planets, but I can tell you it rarely happens in Earth history. And so when 5 planets line up, okay, out of 8, on a solar eclipse on Nisan 1 with the Devil's Comet, hasn't been around in 71 years, right? With cicadas that haven't been out since 1803, just a few short years before the War of 1812 and the biggest earthquake in the continental United States history, along with red heifers being sacrificed, a Hadron Collider that is fixing to open up the time-space continuum, and all of this is happening on the same day? Now, I am the last conspiracy theory that's out there. I don't even hardly do videos like this because I'm a deep dive Bible teacher. It's what I do. I teach people how to live the Word of God from its original ancient perspective, removing itself from all the traditions and doctrines of men of the Roman Church and the red-headed stepchild of the Catholic Church, the Protestant movement, and really get back to doing Bible things in Bible ways and let God infuse the power of God into your life, into your family by doing those things. Going out on a limb like this and getting into current events is not something that I normally do, but I believe so strongly that the coincidences here just mathematically don't line up. It's worth us taking a look at. And so as we close this broadcast, I want you to take the position of not mocking all of the coincidences, but be a wise leader. Just to be safe, we should take a look at these things and alter whatever we're doing just in case. And again, I am not saying that anything is going to happen, but what I am believing is something is going to happen in the prophetic realm, because anytime that you see solar eclipses like this, anytime you see these kind of patterns happening, normally we never see anything on the day, but we will see things begin to manifest in the earth realm. Just like you don't see a baby formed on the day that it's conceived. No one even has a clue for months. Then all of a sudden something begins to happen. The mom begins to get sick. The abdomen begins to swell a little bit. And pretty soon they take a test and realize, oh, something did happen months ago. God spoke to me last fall, 2023, and said 2024, I'm going to begin the process of birthing something in the earth realm. I didn't know what it was. I still don't know exactly what it is, but I can tell you that we need to be watchmen. We need to be careful. We need to be prayed up, and we need to be ready.